Welcome aboard.
Introducing to the stage, Axios co-founder, Mike Allen.
Happy holidays and welcome. I'm Mike Allen, co-founder of Axios. Lots of longtime friends here that we've seen across the world this year. Thank you for joining us for the final Axios Live event of 2025. We've had 154 events, 31 cities, 4 countries. We've been around the world together. We're excited to be able to stick our landing here in DC with so many friends. On behalf of my co-founders, Jim Vandehei and Roy Schwartz, thank all of you, some of you for many, many years, who have supported the nourishing, healthy, useful content of Axios, always working to be worthy for you, getting you smarter, faster on what matters. We love this Zoom In series, which focuses on city revitalization, urban development, economic development trends. We thank JP Chase, which was a launch partner of Axios now 9 years ago, and the U.S. Conference of Mayors, a nonpartisan organization of great cities, for the partnership that's bringing this evening's conversation on boosting America's competitive edge and how the U.S. can stay out front on tech, energy, and the economy. Behind the curtain, we've worked with our great partners at JP Chase to take the Zoom In series on the road this year. DC, Chicago, Austin, Columbus, San Francisco, Atlanta. And we thank all our JP Chase friends who are here. Tim, Doug, Shannon, Lauren, Steve, Shelby, and more. And plus we have a DC celebrity here, Eric Schultz. So it's a great group to kick off this grand finale. We'd like to welcome to the stage a friend going back to his and my misspent youth on Capitol Hill. He's a member of the JP Chase Operating Committee. He's global head of corporate responsibility, overseeing global government relations, sustainability, public engagement, and philanthropy. And he's also JP Chase chairman of the Mid-Atlantic region. The pride of Middlebury College, Tim Barrett. Welcome.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Misspent youth. You're still in your youth.
Yeah, very good point. Well, thank you, Mike. And I want to welcome everybody to the final Zoom event of the year. It's been an incredible partnership between Axios, JP Chase, and the U.S. Conference of Mayors. Since launching this initiative, we've convened community leaders, policymakers, local governments, business leaders, and civic stakeholders to tackle pressing issues across the United States, as Mike just mentioned. Zoom In has sparked dialogue and action on housing in Atlanta and Chicago, workforce in Columbus and Austin, and downtown revitalization in San Francisco. These gatherings have underscored that change happens when public, private, and the civic sector come together. But tonight, as Mike mentioned, we also want to focus on our national security and economic competitiveness. We are incredibly proud at JP Chase of the Security and Resiliency Initiative that we recently announced, a $1.5 trillion 10-year commitment to bolster industries critical to U.S. economic security, resilience, and innovation. Through the Security and Resiliency Initiative, we also will invest up to $10 billion in direct equity and venture capital into companies working in advanced manufacturing, supply chains, energy, defense, aerospace, and frontier technologies like AI and quantum computing. But we also know that there's an urgent need to strengthen the talent pipeline in these critical industries. We know that policy plays an important role in addressing workforce shortages, which is why today, this morning, we released a set of recommendations for state and federal policymakers around how to strengthen and grow this critical workforce pipeline. And it matters because these sectors won't just drive national growth, they'll generate jobs, spur innovation, and build resilient economies all across the United States. This means new opportunities for workforce development, housing affordability, small business support, and sustainable economic growth. At JP Chase, we believe competing globally starts at home. So through Zoom and our Security and Resiliency Initiative, we are providing tools to help communities grow, thrive, and build generational prosperity. So thank you. I hope you have a great time and that it's an informative night. And I'm going to welcome Mike back to the stage. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Tim and to JP Chase for this across the country great Zoom In series. Our next guest, Jared Agan, has spent 20 years at the top of federal and state government, and he also knows free enterprise and is fluent in Silicon Valley. He's a deputy assistant to the president, and he holds a unique title in Washington, one that nobody in Washington has ever held. He's executive director of the National Energy Dominance Council. Jared Agan, welcome to Axios. You've got that dominance at the top of your X bio as well. So President Trump is very focused on affordability. We're hearing more and more, including affordability of electricity, which is a rising issue. You have a meeting in the Oval on energy issues. It's supposed to be 30 minutes. What happens?
Well, the president, he loves to go down and learn as much as he can about prices. I mean, so you've heard him, I'm sure anybody, if you've listened to him talk, he's talking about oil prices, gas prices. He wants to know what people are paying at the pump. He wants to know how we're selling natural gas around the world. And he wants to know about electricity prices. And so he had just gone up to Pennsylvania the night before and talked about this. And so we walk through what is the state of play in America when it comes to electricity prices. And you're going to hear a lot more about this going forward. But we really wanted to unpack it because you can look at the national average, but the national average doesn't really tell you what you need to know, because as you all know, it's about what's happening in your local area, what's happening in your state. And so if you break down electricity prices, there is a huge divide in America of electricity prices in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic and on the coast in California versus the rest of the country. And so if you drill down even deeper into that, it's electricity affordability is a choice. You have to choose to embrace policies that are going to drive down electricity prices.
Now, to flash back a little bit, you say that there is a difference in red state policy, blue state policy,
100%.
going back 5-6 years.
Yeah, so if you look at kind of the red states and the blue states, the price of electricity in the blue states is significantly higher than the red states.
Well, those are mostly more urban states, bigger states.
They're urban states, but it goes to what policy choices have you made? So if you are investing in gas pipelines and you have the flow to get low power sources, then your electricity prices are lower. And so if you've invested in intermittent sources, they're more expensive, they don't run all the time, and so your prices are higher. So this is what we're looking at now. And so even despite that, I mean, we're trying to get infrastructure built. For example, you got natural gas in Pennsylvania. One of the highest prices of electricity in the country is Northeast and New England. Get the gas from Pennsylvania up into New England will lower prices in New England. So there are policies that the president has been pushing and trying to get forward in order to drive down everybody's electricity prices. At the same time, it's good on oil, it's good on gas, and it's good for everybody who lives in those communities to have lower electricity prices. So that's the divide that's happening now. It is a choice. If you're embracing the policies that the president has been pushing, you probably have lower prices right now. If you've been against that, then you need to reverse course and get into what is driving low cost: coal, natural gas, the access to these two things and the pipelines and the infrastructure are going to drive down your electricity. And then obviously we're embracing nuclear as well. That's a longer term thing. That's a policy decision that your state and your locality can make. That's going to be a long-term big bet that's going to help drive down electricity prices.
Okay, so let's take three things in order. We'll start with the oil and gas. The president often points to oil and gas coming down. I just took a look on the way over here. AAA's average for a regular price of a gallon of gas is $2.94. A month ago was $3.07. A year ago was $3.02. What can we learn from the decline in energy, in gas and oil prices that could help you in your effort next year to bring down electricity prices?
Yeah, well, it's cutting out the bureaucracy, cutting out the regulation, and driving innovation. Those are the things that helped drive down the oil and gas prices. And so when you have to spend so long on permitting and fighting legal battles, and permits that take 2 years that now are taking 2 weeks to get done when it comes to oil and gas, that's the same kind of urgency that we want to put forward across the board. And so again, I go back to, it all comes down to infrastructure. If you can't get the permitting done to do the infrastructure, or you're constantly fighting legal battles, that drives up the cost of everything. And so the whole reason the president created the Energy Dominance Council is to have a group in the White House that can look across the board at the bureaucracy and say, all right, let's get rid of the red tape and the bureaucracy. Let's move these projects. If something can be permitted faster, let's get it permitted faster. And the other thing we're working on with legislation is, if we can do something that can protect these projects from the frivolous lawsuits so that they can move forward. So it's the lawsuits that grind these things to a halt. It's the American people that are getting hurt by this. They want lower prices across the board. Let's get the projects done and stop fighting about it in courts. That is just going to drive everybody's prices up.
Jared, an AP story this summer headlines, as electric bills rise, evidence mounts that data centers share the blame. States feel pressure to act. What would you say to consumers?
Yeah, not true. I would say, this is a false narrative out there that the data centers would drive up.
But it's being felt by people in states across the country.
Well, where you are investing in data centers now is where electricity costs are low. So, the major hyperscalers are looking. They want to build where electricity prices and energy prices are low. So areas like the Permian, Pennsylvania, areas that have access to low energy prices, it's what's going to get the data centers. What I would say is, they bring huge benefits to the area as long as you have the infrastructure there. So it's going to bring jobs. It's going to bring more commitment to the local communities as far as costs and investing in the communities, taxes into the communities. And so it's a false narrative that the data centers drive that, because we're working with the hyperscalers so that it's not going to drive up your energy costs. What they're going to try to do is get access directly to the power, work with the utilities so that the data centers pull the energy before it hits anybody's meter, whatever's extra and in addition to what they aren't using, that goes into the grid. And so the hyperscalers are working with us so that this is not adding to consumers' costs. They want to build in areas where they can pull directly from the power source and use it, and then push the rest into the grid so that consumers' prices are not increasing.
Jared, how important to the energy golden age, one part of the golden age the president has promised, is AI infrastructure? Do you feel like it's an impediment, or is it an accelerator?
It's a huge accelerator. We must win the AI race. And so it affects everything across the board. And so when it comes to operations, when it comes to the output, AI is going to be hugely important to everything we do. And that's why it's so important to fight back on this narrative of on the data centers, is that if we aren't investing in that, then we are going to be behind. We're going to lose the AI race. And we have a chance now. Our grid, it needs improvements. It needs to be stabilized. We need to optimize it. We need to make it more efficient. But we ultimately need to grow it. And so it's not really an option to not grow the grid and not have data centers. The option is, how do you set it up in the right way so that the data centers are there, but the consumers are not paying the cost of the data centers?
If you're in the room here in DC, on your chairs, you have a paper just out today from JP Morgan Chase, Work to Win. If you are watching around the world, you read about this in Axios AM this morning, a great story by my colleague Madison Mills, and the report is linked in there. But it makes the point, America's workforce squeeze has become a national security threat. What role can energy broadly play in mitigating that threat?
Well, I think there are things that we do here that we are the world leaders on. And so when it comes to the shale revolution and oil and gas, we are definitively the leader in that. We are so much further than the world in oil production and gas production. It's because of the innovation that this workforce has. Now, what we also want to have is that same competitive advantage on the workforce when it comes to nuclear and AI when you're talking about the energy sector. Right now, I'm seeing it ever since the president came out with his nuclear EOs earlier this year. The investment and the commitment in nuclear has just skyrocketed. And so the people are coming into our offices and saying, we've got great innovation around nuclear. We want to build it here. We don't want to go to Europe. We don't want to go elsewhere. And so that's where I think we are at the forefront, where we can really be the definitive workforce when it comes to nuclear, and that's what I would love to see us. And then obviously AI comes on top of that. I think we will be the leader in AI. We're certainly the leader in AI when it comes from the engineering perspective. We just need the power, and this is where all this ties together with nuclear and gas, to also have the power to be the leader in AI.
That's super interesting. So you see a nuclear revival, or you'd like to have a nuclear revival, or how would you frame it?
No, I'm seeing it. It's happening. We are at the forefront of it now. The steps the president has taken have really unleashed this nuclear revolution here. And it's happening all over the country, which is fascinating. So you've got places in states and localities all over that are now investing in nuclear, where, I mean, the whole dynamic around it has changed because of the small modular reactors. These are not huge, massive plants that you're kind of used to and the imagery, So you can do those, and it can power communities, and it doesn't take a large footprint to do. And so the more we can build that into the infrastructure, the better we're all going to be.
If we're sitting here a year from now, December 2026, and let's do it, shall we?
Yeah, I'd love to.
Let's get a jump on your New Year's resolutions. You will be successful in your role if what, a year from now?
I want deals. And so we want to be the most popular office in the White House. So I want people to come in to talk to me about energy projects in your areas. It doesn't matter where you are, your state, your city, come in and see us. We want to launch deals. This past year was about getting off the ground. Next year is going to be all about ribbon cuttings, groundbreakings. We want energy addition. We want more power, more energy across the board. That's what I want to have when we sit down next year.
Your team talks about stakes in the ground.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. I mean, look, the president wants stuff fast. I mean, he moves and makes decisions quickly. He wants all of this because we are competing against, China is moving very fast on all the things we just talked about. We need to move at that same speed. We cannot have the bureaucracy and the infighting to stop us. He wants more power, more energy, and we're all about that at the Energy Dominance Council.
Penultimate question. The Wall Street Journal today has a story about China's burgeoning energy production and talks about an electron gap. How worried are you about the energy gap between the U.S. and China?
Well, I think that's where you've seen the moves we've never made before of being as aggressive as we have. We haven't talked about critical minerals, but that's a perfect example. The president has rewritten the structure of how we do critical minerals here in the United States. We've taken equity deals. We've injected funds into critical minerals now, and so all of this is done to close the gap with China and make us more independent when it comes to the whole critical minerals infrastructure, and we've made massive strides on that already. I'm excited about what's to come, but you've seen it. It's an urgency. It's throwing out the old playbook and completely rewriting how we tackle something like critical minerals, and he wants to do that on energy across the board. Smart brevity in your portfolio. Where is China ahead? Where are they behind? Well, we are ahead in the innovation. We are ahead in kind of an oil and gas, certainly. Where we need to move forward is on the grid, on infrastructure, and just faster. That's where I talk about the permitting process. And a lot of that is that partnership with Congress, but we need to move faster on the permitting process.
One fun thing, you're a big soccer fan. Last week at the Kennedy Center, the president presided over the World Cup draw, and you were there.
Oh, it was amazing. I'm a huge soccer fan. I cannot wait for the U.S. to win the World Cup here. I cannot wait for the president to hand that trophy over. It's going to be exciting. But the great part was it was a huge celebration from people from all over the world here in D.C. They came up to me. They were so impressed with everything the president had done and FIFA had done to showcase America. And I mean, all next year is going to be a massive showcase of America. The World Cup is one part of that. America 250 is another part of that. But it's going to hit cities all over our country. It's going to be a huge celebration. I'm so excited for it.
We have lots of soccer nerds in the audience. Make a soccer prediction. A World Cup prediction.
I think, you know, the U.S. is going to win it. I'll be very excited for that. Pulisic's going to be holding that trophy. It's going to be great.
We thank our partners at JP Morgan Chase and the U.S. Conference of Mayors. Thank you to the Axios events team for these 154 events. If you think of what it's like to give a dinner party in your house, all the things that you think about, the Axios events team does that every day. We think it is amazing what they do. All the people around the room who made the beautiful food and set us up in this beautiful place. So thank each of you for supporting Axios healthy, clinical, useful content. Jared Egan, thanks for an illuminating conversation.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Jared. Merry Christmas. See you next year.
Introducing our View from the Top moderator and Axios publisher, Nicholas Johnston.
And I'm Nicholas Johnston. I'm the publisher of Axios. As Mike said, this is our 150-something odd event this year. We're so grateful for all of you joining us. I see some familiar faces in the crowd here. But if this is your first event, if this is your 101st event, thank you so much for being a part of it. We're very grateful for that. Also, hugely grateful for all of our partners at Axios. Nothing we do at Axios, the investments we make in journalism around the country, convening great conversations like this would be possible without the support of our partners. So huge thanks to JP Morgan Chase and the U.S. Conference of Mayors for not just making tonight's conversation possible, but for being with us all year long, coast to coast, for a ton of really illuminating conversations about that. And we've saved the best for last, so I'm very excited to welcome for a View from the Top conversation, JP Morgan Chase's Commercial and Investment Bank co-CEO, Douglas Petno. Douglas, welcome to the Axios stage. Good evening, sir. How are you?
How are you?
Let's just start big picture with the question of the evening. What do you see as the state of America's competitiveness?
I'm going to answer that, but real quick. You've thanked JP Morgan several times this evening. We just want to say thank you back to Axios for just convening all of you on such important topics. It's wonderful to be here, so thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
U.S. competitiveness. Well, look, let me just start with giving you a sense for my lens on the U.S. and the U.S. economy. Just running the business I run at JP Morgan, we have teams in 150 cities around the U.S. We have teams in over 90 countries around the world. So you get a good sense of what's happening in the U.S. You get a good sense of what's happening in our friends around the world. Mm-hmm. And there's absolutely no question the U.S. sits in an unbelievable place in the competitive landscape in the global economy. Thought leadership, human capital, financial capital, innovation, combustion, rule of law, capital markets, all of this. But I will say it's tenuous, and we don't have a divine right to maintain that stature forever. And if you spend time with clients that I do, and you sort of travel the United States, we have unbelievable companies of all shapes and sizes, just hugely innovative, endurable, very enduring businesses, family-run companies, tons of capacity to handle stress and wear and tear, but it's a lot of things are taking their toll. Mm-hmm. So you have this buildup of cumulative regulations. So think about barnacles on a ship, just building up over and over and over again. You have aging infrastructure. You have aging logistics, energy. The AI build out of the AI stuff is not keeping up with needs. It's just moving so fast. And then you have what you've seen coming out of the trade negotiations this year and coming out of COVID is we have real supply chain vulnerabilities. And so I think that in combination with a lot of other factors contributed to the security and resiliency program initiative that Tim Berry mentioned at the beginning.
Right.
It's a huge strategic priority for JP Morgan, from our board to Jamie, across our senior leadership team. Big capital commitment with $10 billion of our own capital, as well as our intention to help facilitate and arrange $1.5 trillion over 10 years. So we're quite excited to be.
I mean, so you listed out the upsides and the challenges. I think like the takeaway I get is like we can't really rest on our laurels here. Why is now the right moment for that initiative?
I mean, we're in a race. We're in a race to solve quantum. We're in a race to. We just heard it. It's a strategic imperative to win the AI race. Mm-hmm. We need to keep our energy infrastructure. It's got to keep up. It could be a huge critical dependency if we don't. You just heard a lot about that in our previous panel. The size and scale of our challenges is daunting, and the time to correct a lot of the challenges that we have in front of us is not. It's not an overnight fix.
Right.
So now is better than. Probably should have started a long time ago.
So let's look at the launch of this initiative. If you look ahead, what are the timeframes you're looking at, and what are the objectives? Like, how do you know you're starting to succeed?
Well, it's a 10-year initiative, and the 10 years is just meant to say, look, we're not going anywhere. These aren't overnight solutions. The amount of money, the amount of capital, the amount of the scope and the size of the challenge is enormous. It's going to take time.
It's not overnight. It's not small dollar. It's a long-term commitment.
It's going to take a lot of human capital, a lot of financial capital, and we're all in.
Yeah. Let's go in a little deeper on human capital. Mike mentioned this earlier, as was Axios AM this morning, the JP Morgan study. Like the top headline was 40% of American adults lack some of the digital skills needed for a lot of these jobs. What are your big picture thoughts on just workforce development, workforce pipelines? Like, how do we solve for that?
I mean, the good news is we have, there's jobs. For people. The other good news is we're staring at a manufacturing renaissance in the United States. And it was happening in a lot of ways. You had energy intense companies moving to the US. You had clean tech companies moving to the US. You had US companies reshoring their own manufacturing. And now you have a dramatic step change in the remilitarization in the US. There's all these factors contributing to an industrial renaissance. And the other good news point is we have amazing labor force in the United States. One of the things we saw, we just built a new corporate headquarters in New York City. It was quite a project of the scope and scale of this tower. We saw first person 10,000 skilled laborers, electricians, steel workers, welders. The talent in the U.S. is exceptional. There's just not enough of it.
Right.
As a report that was released today highlighted.
And so the advice here is just as we're making these kinds of infrastructure investments, don't forget investments in the people, because we still have a lot of work to do in building that workforce pipeline for the future.
Well, I mean, we just go through the job categories. They need real training, and there's not the medium through which to do that. So especially welding is one that just stands out. We need hundreds of thousands of welders around the U.S.
What's been fascinating about these conversations, we've been all over the country in local communities, talking to mayors, talking to governors, talking to local officials. Well, now we're back in Washington, D.C. How can the folks in this room help? Like when we do these in D.C., the people who show up, they really care about this issue. And I mean, they either write the policy or at least think they write the policy. What would be their advice to them? How do they go back to their office, their agencies, their bosses?
It's all hands on deck.
Right.
And I think that everybody needs the best information possible to make the best decisions possible. And everybody needs to come together and co-create and ideate. So these are world scale challenges. So I think our policymakers, our legislators need the best eyes and ears on the ground so they understand the facts and circumstances locally and globally to write the best legislation and to really spend their time in the most productive way. And then what we can do is sort of square off against some of these big challenges where commercial solutions are the best answer and actually lean in like we're trying to do at JP Morgan with your own balance sheet, your own human capital, your own time. And I think if we do it together, we can bend the curve.
And it's not an either or situation. This is not something that's solved by legislation or policy. It's not just something that's solved by private industry. You need two pieces of that together to solve these kinds of big challenges.
Exactly.
Yeah. Before we get the hook here, we love to end on one fun thing. Let's end on one holiday thing. You have a great hack for your family to make gift giving easier.
There's nothing wild and crazy. We're all
The easiest is best.
My children are not children. They're all little grown-ups. Everybody's super busy, and nobody really needs anything in this world in this day and age. So on Thanksgiving Day, we all draw a name. You get one gift for one person. It's always a little bit of a contest. It could be the most funny.
Pour all that effort into the one
Very
good
limited
thing.
price. Nobody's going crazy, but just makes the holidays a lot simpler, a lot more focused on just being together and the true spirit of being,
Another little bit of innovation for the end of the year. Douglas, thanks so much for being here.
you.
Huge thanks
Thanks
to
so much.
JP Morgan Chase for this whole year of awesome events. Hope to see you next year.
Thank you very
Stick
much.
around. We'll have Colin continuing the conversation. Thanks a lot.
Please welcome to the stage Axios defense reporter Colin Demarest.
Hey y'all, how you doing? I'm Colin Demarest. I write Axios Future of Defense weekly newsletter out every Wednesday. You should subscribe. Shameless plug. Thanks for being here tonight. I'm very excited to welcome our next guest to the Axios stage to discuss what's next for critical minerals, defense, and more. She's the brand new CEO of USA Rare Earth, Barbara Humpton.
Well, great to be with you.
Thanks for being here. We are going to have to do a bit of a lightning round based on the clock. So let's get started here. Jared earlier mentioned Trump has rewritten the playbook on critical minerals. Agree or disagree?
Agree.
Why?
First of all, we're taking this bull by the horns. China chose to dominate this sector 30 years ago, and now we are completely dependent. Now is the time to take this back. I've said to everyone outside of China who's been working in this market, they're really gritty, really scrappy, because they've had to be that way to survive. And folks have been competing against each other. And my comment to them is, if we took just 20% of the market that China has been satisfying, all of us would grow. Let's work together.
So to what degree does China have leverage over the U.S., given its resource dominance, given its processing
critical.
dominance? And then how does Beijing weaponize that? How they could effectively brick our systems.
You've seen this twice already this year. In April, China said, hey, I'm going to withhold the critical rare earths, heavy rare earths, and magnets from the United States. And it took real diplomacy and dialogue to get that back on track. In October, it happened again. Now the whole world is threatened. Do you understand what happens if we don't have access to those materials? Permanent magnets and critical minerals are in nearly every aspect of our economy, and we don't have stockpiles. Now is the time to act.
Can the U.S., or maybe should the U.S., entirely cut China out of its rare earth supply? And if that's wise, when could that happen?
I think it will take time to repair this. I know that we will be doing business with China for some time to come. And I'll tell you about my experience at USA Rare Earth. This is exactly what we're trying to tackle. USA Rare Earth has the mining rights to the richest deposit of heavy rare earths in North America, according to the USGS. Round Top in Texas. Here we will find the minerals we need. It wasn't affordable to mine those minerals at a time when China was flooding the market with cheap goods. But we can get that going. Meanwhile, we can process it. We have scientists in Colorado who have the technology needed in order to process and precipitate the minerals that we need. We made an investment just this year, announced in October, in less common metals, the only scaled metal maker outside of China producing samarium and samarium cobalt, metal and alloy, and the strip cast going into magnet making. And of course, this team, USA Rare Earth, is also standing up magnet making. We will be developing this for years. And in our early interaction with customers, one of the things they've asked us to do is keep their relationship with us under NDA. Because in the meantime, they are going to need to be able to keep the supplies coming from China, but they're beginning to look for alternative sources, building safety stocks. And so what we're doing is prioritizing customers in defense, medicine, energy, and ultimately every aspect of our economy will need access to these products.
So every military service in the US is dependent on Chinese resources.
Our Air Force turns into paperweights without the magnets that support the rotating equipment inside those vehicles.
So how quickly can the Pentagon wean itself off, or is that dependent on companies like yours and MP
This is a private sector deal. By the way, if you look at the total market opportunity for permanent magnets and these critical rare earths, aerospace and defense is about 5 to 7% of the market demand. The US government alone will not be able to tip this market. And that's why I've been so focused this year on something we've been calling industrial patriotism. Do business people here in the US understand how important it is that they create the demand signal? Now, we've seen this in the energy space, right? The people who are building the data centers have banded together and created a demand signal for power. That same thing needs to happen in the demand for permanent magnets.
We were talking backstage, you're 2 to 3 months into this new gig as the chief executive. You're talking about kind of like the slip road to get onto a highway, right?
Yeah, that's right.
What are you doing on that slip road right now? And then where do you hope to steer the company in the next year, 2 years?
Week 1, I met the magnet makers. Week 2, I met the metal makers. Week 3, I met policy makers. Week 4, I met the money makers. I went to visit investors.
Which one's more important?
Week 5, what did I do week 5? Week 5, we had a board meeting. Week 6 was to Kuala Lumpur to meet the marketplace overall. All of the leaders outside of China supporting this tiny but essential marketplace. Just yesterday, we announced that the team has actually accelerated our plan for Round Top Mountain. This was going to be a 2030 or later venture. And the question that we asked the team was, what would it take to be able to start processing at Round Top before the end of 2028? And they came to us with a solution, and we've just announced that.
What does that solution look like? To me, an outsider, that just seems like you kind of cut some stuff out in the middle and you're like, oh, there are 2 years.
Yeah, you cannot bypass the critical steps in the science and the permitting, et cetera. But what you can do is you've got plans, a preliminary feasibility study, that's ongoing. And typically you would wait till after that's done to begin piloting. What if you actually started in the lab you already have in Colorado and start to actually do the science, the chemistry that will demonstrate the ability to produce the minerals at the scale needed? That we're doing in parallel. And then that allows us to bring in then what will be the definitive feasibility study and to be ready to begin operations.
So Round Top is gallium, beryllium, a bunch of other things maybe. Those are all widely used in defense, radars, electronic warfare, lightweight precision aerospace components. What happens if you get this wrong?
This won't be wrong. The science is already done. The analysis is already done. The minerals are there waiting for us to proceed. What's interesting is if you look at this just as a supply chain, you might be distracted. You'd say, well, I need these heavy rare earths in order to make magnets in the future. What the team had been focused on was exactly that. What they hadn't realized is that same source, that same deposit will yield hafnium. Hafnium is absolutely critical in nuclear energy. So by recognizing other products that can go into other supply chains, we recognize we've got a link in a value chain. Now, what about processing? The team had been preparing to process just from Round Top. What if we could take other third-party concentrates, mixed rare earth concentrates, and precipitate out product there? Well, that whole processing link in the supply chain can become a value link as well. By the way, metal making, yes, we'll make magnets, but we also make the metals that are needed elsewhere. Our whole plan here is not to be exclusive. This is not verticalization to monopolize. This is investment in order to scale.
The Defense Department this summer was slated to become the biggest shareholder in MP Materials, and the Office of Strategic Capital quickly followed up. Where do you think public-private partnerships go? Are you having similar conversations with the Pentagon? Where do we go from here?
I think public-private partnership is valuable. What I also think is valuable is the private sector, things like JP Morgan stepping in with the critical funds that are going to help to rebuild our critical infrastructure, the industries that are so vital to our economy. If we think about the US as a shareholder, these are national assets, and the American people should benefit from that. And there's a great commercial opportunity for investors as well. So I'm bullish on where this goes.
Have you talked to the Pentagon about that?
I will neither confirm nor deny.
Okay. I get that a lot. Just today, last question, in the Wall Street Journal, there was a report about a new mineral deposit found in Utah.
Yes.
Kind of a surprise. Do you foresee those same sort of surprises moving forward? Like, is the U.S. tapped out?
Oh, the U.S. is nowhere near tapped out. And the fact is that for too long, we just said, we'll outsource all of this to China. Who knows what's in that ionic clay in Utah? But I guarantee you we will find value there. And this value chain will continue to grow.
Barbara, that's the last word.
Colin, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
I've got work to do.
All right, guys. To close things out tonight, our next guest from Congress, he's the ranking member of the House Select Committee on Strategic Competition between the U.S. and the CCP. Please welcome Congressman Raja Krishnamoorthi. Thanks for being here. I'm a big fan of starting with the news of the day, so let's start with H200s.
Okay.
Is it a smart move to sell the H200 chips to China?
No.
Why?
I think that we are putting ourselves at risk by basically assisting the CCP with their military modernization and the perpetration of human rights abuses by selling these highest end chips, which kind of power their AI models, whether it's in hypersonic missiles or facial recognition algorithms used to go after the Uyghurs, Tibetans, Hong Kongers, or other dissidents.
And so there are proponents of this deal who argue already that...
Rhymes with Schmenson Schwang.
We'll get to that. They argue that if China is already making AI advances, and those are significant, they might as well do it on top of the American stack. I'm going to guess you disagree with that take, but your thoughts?
They're making the Chinese stack, okay? They're making the Chinese stack. They want to kill NVIDIA. That is their operating approach, okay? So why hand them the murder weapon, okay? We should be very clear-eyed about the CCP's economic playbook. It applies to every single area of the economy, from steel to paper to glass, to solar panels to batteries, to automobiles, and now semiconductors. Semiconductors, interestingly, are the main choke point for the CCP. They have, despite being able, having invested hundreds of billions, maybe trillions, I don't know how much money they've put into this program, they still have not been able to come up with the world's leading chips.
Do you think that plays into their Taiwan calculus at all?
A little bit, although, it becomes dicey when you start trying to invade or attack the very place that has the technology that you seek to exploit for your future benefit. But they haven't been able to get there. So now we are basically just handing it to them, which makes no sense.
Do you think they'll want to buy them, even though they are on a bit of a self-sufficiency drive? Or is that kind of like, let's see what these guys are working?
Oh, yeah. Are you kidding me? Of course. They'll buy them. I think that they have their own vetting process they're going through right now, which I think is a little bit of a kabuki dance. But absolutely, they want their hands on those chips. Remember, they've been trying to get their hands on these chips through other means, whether it's funneling through other countries or maybe even stealing them from other allocations given to, countries in the Middle East.
So DeepSeek was a huge splash. Do you think we'll get DeepSeek on steroids with something like this?
Anything is possible. I'm not really sure about DeepSeek. I mean, we did a little interesting exercise involving DeepSeek, comparing DeepSeek and ChatGPT or some other models. And the way that they train those models is in the CCP style, right? So you ask the question, what happened in Tiananmen Square in 1989? He says, well, let's talk about math and physics instead, And so I'm not sure how intelligent those models are right now.
Given this deal, given this arrangement, you have legislation, no advanced chips for the CCP and GAIN AI Acts.
Yeah.
What happens to those bills now that this is underway?
Well, remember the GAIN AI Act in particular would not only talk about controls, but also prioritize domestic consumption of those chips over foreign consumption. And so regardless of what happens with the export controls that Donald Trump is putting in place, we would still have a voracious need for those chips internally.
I want to get back to your poetry earlier, Jensen Huang. What does this arrangement say about his influence in Trump 2.0?
I think it's big. It's big, and I think that he is, in my humble opinion, going down a very dangerous path. I told this to him personally as well.
When was that? Was that before the sales?
Right, yeah. He came to talk to me about this. Look, I think that what NVIDIA has managed to do has been awe-inspiring. I mean, he did it. He told me about the origin story of NVIDIA, which is on the back of a napkin at a Denny's in San Jose. I mean, that's the American dream embodied. That being said, now we also have to worry about our national security, and we have to be concerned about potentially, handing items that could be used to, bring about our own demise in certain ways.
Would you want him to testify before the committee anytime soon?
That's an interesting question. Possibly. I mean, I think that oftentimes these CEOs want to talk to us in a private setting as well because they have some very specific concerns with regard to various subjects. And so
that makes our job harder.
Makes your job harder, makes our job with regard to legislative crafting or whatever a little bit easier. But at the end of the day, we do need to kind of understand, we need to know the facts. And the more candid that people are, the better.
So in this U.S.-China race, short-term, medium-term, long-term, do you think it's better for the U.S. to focus on itself, running faster, more efficiently, or do you think it's better off kind of trying to trip up Beijing?
Not necessarily trip up, but I think handing somebody, a boost while you are trying to stay ahead doesn't make sense. I think especially in this place where, these semiconductors are so important for modern technology of all kinds. And as I said before, it is a choke point. Just as critical minerals are a choke point for the U.S. in the sense that the CCP has leverage over us with regard to this issue, this is an issue where we have leverage over them.
And so the earlier conversation was about the power checkpoint as well, the energy checkpoint. You're seeing a lot of other countries invest in that, China specifically.
Big time, yeah.
How are you thinking through American energy, especially in relation to this AI boom and other kind of national security concerns?
Well, I think that the big, beautiful bill, which I call the large, lousy law, was crazy. It was crazy town. It basically, repeals these tax credits for the creation of new energy sources, which we desperately need to get on the grid to satisfy our demand, even at the same time that demand is going up. So as demand goes up and supply goes down, guess what happens? Prices go up. That doesn't make any sense. It hurts the American people, but it also hurts our ability to lower the price of electricity for industry. And as you know, these data centers are also voracious consumers of industry. And so we are sending all the wrong messages through that particular piece of legislation. I think that alone set us back years.
I'm going to be selfish here and ask some future of defense questions as I have you on the stage. The White House published its national security strategy a few days ago. What's your gut reaction? I think I just got it. Or maybe what letter grade would you give it?
Wow. I don't know, man. It's just such a, it seems so, I don't know, kind of sophomoric, like something that came out of a MAGA, political journal, as opposed to kind of a thoughtful, clear-eyed view of our challenges in the world and what we need to do to address those challenges. And it also, it sends all the wrong messages too, which I think our allies, friends, partners, but also our adversaries read very carefully. And they derive a lot of either comfort or, concern from those. And then they take actions on their own, right? I mean, the worst case scenario for us is, I don't know, an ally like Japan feeling like, oh my God, these guys are going to let us just go it alone. Let's start up that nuclear weapons program right now. And we're going to go on a crash course to develop a nuclear weapon because we no longer can trust the U.S. as a kind of sacred treaty partner the way that we have for 70 years. That would be like the worst, or Germany in Europe. I mean, you could see any number of scenarios where as you push your friends, partners, and allies away, they hedge. And when they hedge, bad things can happen. Just as when we seem to draw some of our adversaries closer, that shows weakness and that could spark conflict.
And to this point about words matter, you sent a letter yesterday to Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth contesting his use of the term G2. Why such a strong reaction?
Because, I think that, again, it is sending all the wrong messages. Our friends, partners, and allies, especially in the Indo-Pacific, do not view the world in that way, in part because Beijing somehow believes that the Indo-Pacific is their sphere of influence. So when you say G2, you kind of suggest almost that the Indo-Pacific region is their backyard. They can do whatever the hell they want with Taiwan in the South China Sea. They can throw their elbows at India, whatever they want to do. And again, it invites aggression. When you invite aggression, it sparks conflict, and conflict could lead to war.
Last question here, as we're running out of time. The bottom of that letter has, I think, a half dozen questions you've posed to the Pentagon. Do you expect answers?
No. I think I've sent, I think Secretary Hegseth has been a pen pal of mine for the last 10, 11 months. I have not yet received one response. And
That's not much of a pen pal.
I'm very upset. Maybe it's a one-way pen pal. But look, maybe it's because I called for his resignation. I'm not sure.
That might have something to do with it.
But the point is this, which is that it feels as though it's amateur hour right now at the Department of War, or whatever they call it now. And when it's amateur hour, that gives comfort to our adversaries. So the only people who are cheering are the folks in Beijing and Moscow and other similar places.
Congressman, we're going to have to leave it there.
Okay.
Thank you for being here, and to the audience, thank you guys for hanging out with us for our final Axios Live event of the year. Feel free to hang around, grab a cocktail, come say what's up, and then stay tuned for a full slate of events in the new year. Thanks, y'all.